Welcome back to Analytic Insights. I wanted to show you how you can bring in information from a database into Zoho Analytics and then build your charts and dashboards and reports off of that. Now, this is very common practice, especially with businesses that have more information, because you can't store a ton of information in these Excel files or Google Sheets all the time. You'll need to have a database. Now, it's very simple to do in Zoho Analytics. If you don't know where I'm at right now on the import your data page, I'll take a second and come over here, click the plus button, which is the create button, and you can see all the different options, things we can create. But what we want to do is go to new table, import data. Okay, now that we've got that, hopefully you're on this page and you can see all the different connectors we can connect to. Now we want to connect to our database today. So if I go over here to databases and data lakes and give that a click, it opens up all the different databases that it can connect to. You can see that there are like tons and tons and tons of databases you can connect to. And if it's not in here, there's also a way to connect to it. Now, I have set up my own database on AWS or Amazon, and it's a relational database. So mine is right here, AWS RDS. If you have something else, go ahead and select your other connector and it will be a very similar process to connect it. Now go ahead and click that to get to Amazon RDS. And now it's asking me for all my credentials so that I can be able to access the database from Zoho Analytics and give it the permission it needs to pull information out so that I can use it for my analysis. Now the first step it asks you to do is put in the database type. Now, if you're thinking, I thought we just selected that in our connector, that is true, can be true, but if you're using Amazon, you can select from many different databases to host on their relational database site is what I'll say. Now, right here, mine is a MySQL database, so I'm going to keep it here, but I'll click the drop down to see all the different things you can connect to if you're using Amazon. Now, here it's going to ask for my endpoint. In Amazon Web Services, right here in my RDS page, you can see that right here under Connectivity and Security, if I click on that, I will find my endpoint. Now, AWS endpoints for databases are super long, and you might have the same thing, but that is the endpoint. Don't worry if it looks wrong. Now, the port is 3306, and you can see that right here also, right under your endpoint. One other thing I know I'm going to need is the database name. So I'm going to come on over here to configuration. And over here on the left-hand side, you can see DB name, and mine is Analytic Insights Test. I'll just go ahead and copy that so that I don't mess it up typing. And I'm going to go ahead and paste it right here where it asks for database name. I know I'm skipping a little bit, but all it's asking me here for is my username and password. So I'll go ahead and put that in. All right, so now that we've selected the database here, we got our endpoint port, we have our username and password, and what the database is called. It's now asking us how we want to connect it, and then what connection type we're gonna input. So how are we gonna connect it? Well, in our case, we're gonna use this directly connect using IP address. This allows us to, with our credentials here, directly connect to our database that is hosted on a cloud server. And what we can do is just put in these credentials and it will automatically pull all the information in when we set up the schedule. Now, if you ever need to use this one right here, connect through agent using Zoho Data Bridge, that means you have a server that's on premises for the most part. Now, if you have a server that's on premises, or in other words, it's not hosted in some cloud service, you'll need to use this little tiny software that Zoho provides for free to download it on your on-premises server, and then you can connect it to Zoho Analytics and do the exact same thing we're going to do and pull in all your information to build out your charts and reports and things. So there will be a video on Zoho data bridges because they can be a little bit finicky. They're a little bit more in depth, but look out for that one. So we're going to go ahead and leave it here, connect directly using IP address, and move on to connection type. Now, you can either have a data import or a live connect. I always choose data import because there's just almost no reason to have a live streaming connect, that is what your CRM is for most of the time, or some other program you use that can manage it more easily. Now, I use Zoho Analytics for more long-term, way more in-depth analytical things, so I always use data import. And what data import does is it goes into your database, grabs the information you tell it to, and stores it in Zoho Analytics. And then you can build your charts and dashboards and everything off of that. Now, it will never repull from your database again until you tell it to or you schedule it, right? So once it's scheduled or you tell it to repull, it's going to go back into your database, pull all the new information, and replace the information that you have stored in Zoho Analytics. Now, Live Connect just has a direct connection to your database and is always going on your database. Now, the reason I like data import is because it's not constantly hitting my database and using up all of its power, just like Live Connect would do. Live Connect is constantly using the database's power, and I don't like that. So I use data import. It's fast enough. It gets you up to 3 hours of speed, and it's pretty much good enough for anything you want to do. Now, we have these two options: use SSL or use SSH tunneling. If you need those, you'll have to ask your IT department about those. They'll know if that's set up. If you're doing it by yourself, most likely you're not going to need those. I don't need those. I didn't set those up in my database. So now that we have everything set up, I know that was long-winded. I'm going to go ahead and click Next, and we'll make sure that, perfect, it did connect because I can see my tables in here now. So it gives us more options now. I can bring in a single table, I can bring in multiple tables, I can write a custom query. So this is just writing a SQL query to tell it what to bring in. And then also, if you have created stored procedures within your database, you can go ahead and click here and type in your execute whatever your stored procedure is. And it will work just like a custom query and pull in that information. Now, in our case, I only have a single table in my database because it's just an example database, and the only table I have is called employees. So it's pre-selected that for me. If I hit next, it will then pull in that information for me and show me the little preview that it always does when we bring in a new data source. You can see that my table name in my database is employees, but I'm going to go ahead and make it look a little nicer and rename it to employees with a capital E. Now I can see all the information that's in my database. I just have the IDs that are auto-incremented. I have employee name, their emails, and their position. Now you can come in here and change these if you need to. Change the different data types. If it's not plain text and it's really a URL, you can change that. You can go through and change all those different things. Once again, I think I've pointed out in another video, if you click View Data Quality or Prepare Data, it's going to kick you into Zoho Data Prep, which is a whole nother massive program that can help you clean up your data. It's awesome, but we won't go into that today. Now, I think everything I've got here is good to go, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Create. And there you go. It has been created. It has pulled my data into Zoho Analytics, and now it's giving me the option to schedule this import. I'm not going to go ahead and schedule it right now because that is in a later video. If I hit close though, I can come over here and see my Amazon RDS MySQL database within my data sources page, and you can see it is syncing right now. All right, that is how you can connect a database from the cloud. In my case, I did an AWS RDS database, but you can do it on any database that's hosted in a cloud. I will make a future video on how to use the Zoho Data Bridge in case you need to connect your database that's hosted on an on-premises server. All right, hope you liked it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.